receiving far less salary there than initially promised, and having their passports and other documentation employers. Amnesty International also found that one company forced employees to work by threatening to withhold their pay or even prevent them. Qatar is responding to the reports of human rights abuses. An official statement reads, "The tone of Amnesty International's latest assertions in picture and do nothing to contribute to our efforts. Their investigation was limited to just 4 companies out of more than 40 currently engaged on Khalifa International Stadium. We've always maintained this World Cup will act as a catalyst for change. It will not be built on the back of exploited workers." Amnesty International also sent a letter to FIFA about their investigation. FIFA responded directly by saying, "In our opinion, the current structures and processes put in place by the Supreme Committee provide a good the respect of human rights of workers at FIFA World Cup sites. While constructive criticism is necessary and in many cases helpful, it is also important to acknowledge progress and improvements. While FIFA cannot and indeed does not have the responsibility to solve all of the societal problems in a host country of a FIFA World Cup, FIFA has taken concrete action and is fully committed to do its utmost to ensure that human rights are respected on all FIFA World Cup sites." Joining us now to discuss the report and reaction is Salil, Shetty, Secretary General of Amnesty International, via Skype from San Francisco. Thanks so much for being with us. Let me ask you first of all about your report. It sounds like conditions are dire.
Thank you, Jonathan. I think, I personally visited Qatar in 2013, and I've seen the living conditions quite shocking, because Qatar is one of the richest countries in the world, and the labor camps are really appalling in terms of the living conditions there. But, what's unique about this report is that this time we're looking at one of the main World Cup football sites where the semi-final is going to be conducted. And I think if football fans read the horrific stories that were told to us, I think they would be quite shocked that, the World Cup is built of human rights abuses of some of the poorest people from some of the poorest countries. So yes, it is quite shocking.
Now, the criticism from Qatar is that you didn't speak to enough people, that Amnesty's research really only dealt with 4 companies out of more than 40 working on this site. Did you talk to enough workers? Did you get enough information to really draw conclusions?
We spoke to 234 workers. That's a very significant proportion of the total workers who are there now. And almost every one of them listed the whole range of abuses they were facing. One company, we have evidence of actually using forced labor. Nabil, one of the metal workers whose names we are not revealing, Nabil is a sort of name we're using for this program, told us that when he complained, he was threatened to actually be thrown out of the country, or that he would not be allowed to move out of the country. Either way, it was evidence of forced labor. So I think for Qatar to say that we have not spoken to enough people, I think is just outrageous. And frankly, the main focus of this time's report is also on FIFA. FIFA knew very well in 2010 that Qatar doesn't have a great record for construction labor rights being upheld. We have been raising this issue now for years. So has the Guardian newspaper, many labor organizations, and they have really not done anything. Even the response they gave to us now was vague and unspecific. So really the FIFA and the sponsors behind FIFA should be pushing FIFA now to say that the Qatar government has to do a full-scale reform of the kafala or sponsorship system. The sponsorship system essentially means that no worker can leave the country without getting permission of the employer. No worker can change a job without getting a permission of the sponsor. This is very, it's a direct abuse of international labor standards.
Now, FIFA also says in its statement, it's important to acknowledge progress and improvements. Amnesty International has been looking at the situation there for quite some time. Have you seen progress or improvements?
Well, as I said, I personally was there 3 years ago. I met with the Prime Minister. There were many commitments made. Some changes are supposed to come about in the next few months. But frankly, what's needed is a fundamental reform of the kafala or sponsorship system. And the reforms which they've announced, most of which have yet to be implemented, doesn't come anywhere close to a fundamental reform. Don't forget that in the next year, the number of workers are going to go up tenfold. So we're going to have about 35,000 workers there. And if they can't fix it in the first major stadium with just about 3,500 workers, We can't imagine how they're going to fix it later on. So they need to act now, and the sponsors of FIFA need to put pressure on FIFA. Otherwise, these are big brand names, Adidas, Coca-Cola. They're going to have a serious reputational risk, because the football fans who come to Doha in 2022 are going to be really shocked at the stories they hear if things don't change now.
Salil Shetty of Amnesty International. Thanks so much for talking with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
A guy walks into a bar. Usually stories like this end with a punchline or something worse, but this one is different. Scotsman Magnus McFarlane Barrow was in a pub more than 20 years ago when he decided